Come on, computer. Hey there, everybody. Welcome to episode 20 of Live Live. We took last week off for Thanksgiving. There's just a lot going on. So now we're going to pack basically 2 weeks of awesome Live Live conversation into this one 30-minute or so episode. And for this one, really excited to have Charlie Raith, who is just an awesome dude. Also happens to be my nephew, but just a really cool story in his journey through youth sports into the USHL and then into playing D1 hockey at Notre Dame for 4 years. And then it's been out in the quote unquote real world for a couple years. So love to kind of dig into how those worlds are colliding. Thanks for being here, Charlie.
Appreciate it, Dave. Excited to join you this morning.
Yeah, if you don't mind, just kind of give us a little bit of a run through in your journey through high level sports.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I played hockey. So did grew up in the Chicagoland area. So played AAA hockey. Transitioned eventually into the USHL. And then ultimately ended up playing 4 years at Notre Dame. And then since then, I graduated in 2022. I went and have been working in investment banking since graduating. So that's the real world part of my life. But yeah, it's been an interesting journey, all of those things. And we talk a lot about hockey and all that stuff. It's shaped who I am in a number of different ways. And, the parallels and the lessons you learn in sports and for me in hockey have certainly carried over into what I'm doing today.
Yeah, and we certainly talk about hockey a lot. Your cousins, my two boys, are 13-year-old hockey players in there. This is first year of checking. This is when it's like that big step where the game is now hockey.
Yeah.
And it's a pretty interesting transition and kind of learning from the coaches. And we've been really fortunate. This is our second year with a coach who he is not a parent coach. He's a dedicated. He's from Toronto. His full-time job is running a men's health testicular cancer foundation and coaching this hockey team. So
Yeah.
he's like all in, and the stuff that he writes, the stuff that the parents aren't really a part of it, but the speeches that we hear him give the kids, and hockey is one piece of it, and the other piece of it is really preparing you to be good people and the culture of it and the teamwork of it. So you've probably had, head coaches, probably 10, something like that over the years.
Yeah, probably.
Are there certain coaching styles that are more? I think that's a little bit more Phil Jackson-esque, right? Almost like doing meditations and things like that. And then other coaching styles that are a little bit more hard-nosed. Are there ones that you've seen that you appreciate?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things in coaching, and especially in hockey, because it is such a fluid sport, you can only have so much structure and system versus football. It's very regimented the play calling and decision-making by coaches in terms of actual game, decision-making, that is so critical. But in hockey in particular, as much as in all the sports, it's about creating culture. And so it's the coach is the guy that's there year in, year out with, and establishing a culture. And so I had the great pleasure of playing under Notre Dame's coaching staff. We had Jeff Jackson, Paul Pooley, and Andy Slaggert. That trio right there took a Notre Dame program that, was not, below middle of the pack of college hockey. And they put them on the map, and they put Notre Dame from kind of a lesser known team to, a consistent top 10 contender. And they did that by establishing a culture. We obviously had systems, had structure, but it was really interesting coming into Notre Dame because it was clear that the culture was already there, and it was very clear that it was starting from the top. And a lot of the coaching style, in terms of actual style, it's very much a push and pull. You can't have too much hard nose to where the players are, it's exhausting on the players, but you can't be too, soft, if you will, to where the players have a little bit too much freedom and are a little too comfortable and not, delivering every day. And so it's a very fine balance.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the Notre Dame staff did a really, really good job of finding that balance. And it definitely showed in terms of, where the program went from to where it ended. The program is a top 10 contender now. And that was because of that culture that they established.
Now on the culture, and I want to keep digging into that and kind of how that's reinforced, but I'm also curious, and I also want to add, this episode is like a convergence of everything that I care about, right? So it's like business and design, and so we talk about that stuff. But most of the podcasts I listen to are spit and chicklets, like hockey podcasts, and hockey think tank. And this is kind of the really, really super cool convergence of it. But when it comes to youth hockey, and my boys, they're the oldest. You were the second oldest, so your parents kind of had a little bit of training on what to expect. So I'm kind of learning as I go with my boys, and there's still a major reinforcement of keeping fun in the game.
Yeah.
Right. If the kids aren't having fun, like, what's the point? Does that end, or is that always a part of the culture and just enjoying the sport and your teammates?
If and when it ends, performance will suffer. And unfortunately, there's so much, Dave, that I have learned about myself and how, when I'm at my best, that I've learned over the past 2-3 years out of hockey, that I wish, and I, literally every day, because I'm thinking about the game a lot, just like you, because it's just so fun for me, where if I could go back, there's so many things that I would do differently. And one of those things is you got to have fun. You got to be relaxed. You got to be energized. It's got to be fun. And when I wasn't having fun, I was my play showed it. And when I was having fun, it was like, the light switch was on, and it was like, night and day. So it doesn't end. I think, unfortunately, I don't think there are still some hard-nosed kind of traditional hockey guys, coaches, organizations, or, maybe GMs or something, that kind of have this kind of hard-nosed attitude. And, it's good to a certain degree, but, it's exiting the game quickly. And I understand why. It cannot be, it can't be a military thing,
Yeah, I mean, you can't tell me the Florida Panthers aren't out there having a good time, right? They're putting in the work.
Exactly.
They're putting in the battles. They're bloody and bruised.
Yeah.
They have miserable, hard days, but they're mixing it up with fun along the way.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to figure that out. And now I'm going to bring that into kind of the business side of it, because as my company, as LivCo, has grown over the year, it's really easy to have fun just with 5 people. When you have 10, 12, 13, 20, 30 people, how do it's work. And I know, yes, it's work and you go to work, but it is a lot more enjoyable if you want to actually be there and you enjoy being around the people and having a good time. And you can't force fun, and you can't force culture. I don't think. People would always ask me, like, do you have a good culture at your company? And I said, like, anybody that says we have a good culture, I don't buy it, because it's like saying that I'm cool. Like, if you say that you're cool, you're not cool. If you say they have a good culture, I don't know, you have a good culture. Like, I don't know. It just kind of is.
Yeah.
So is it a team captain mentality? Is it just from the top down? Is it Jackson? Is it the whole, coaching staff that has the ability to, yeah, we're gonna work our butts off, and we're gonna get angry, and we're gonna get mad when we don't do what we're supposed to do, but at the same time, don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. That's again, it's a very difficult balance, and it was fun to watch Coach Jackson and the staff try to kind of work through that. It starts. You can't have bad people and create a good culture. So you got to have good people, but people vary. It's very hard to find those people that are incredibly talented, incredibly hardworking, and incredibly fun and inclusive. Those are hard people to find. So you got to manage a lot of different personalities, and it is one thing that Coach Jackson and the staff would do is it wasn't a monarchy. It wasn't my way or the highway. It was, he would take his leadership group, and he had a leadership group of 8 or so guys on a team of 30. We had 4 captains. A leadership group was broader than the captains. And he would have conversations, kind of behind closed doors with them. And he would float ideas. He'd be like, hey, I want to come down. Hey guys, I think we're lacking a little bit on conditioning. I'd like to incorporate a little bit more conditioning. I know that's not fun, but what do you guys think? And, you got to have players that are confident enough, that know the team, that know the vibe, that are, want to succeed, not just want things to be easy. And they would come back and be like, hey, we're kind of with you, let's do, 20 minutes of conditioning Mondays and Tuesdays. And then let's kind of get that culture back instilled, and let's get people thinking a little bit more about conditioning. So that's just kind of one example. But what Coach Jackson did really well is you need that leadership. You need the guy who makes the final call. But if he's the one and he's not taking other opinions into account, and it doesn't feel like a group effort,
Mm-hmm.
You're going to lose guys. And so, you can't ask every player on the team, hey, what do you think? But, you take the guys that the players look up to, that the players like, and you work with them, and it's kind of a push and pull there. Like, hey, the coach wants this, the leadership group, is okay with A, B, and C, but they don't really love D. They think D is too far. And then you kind of reach a middle ground. And then the coach presents a united front to the team and says, hey, I've talked to the leadership group. We're all on the same page here. We're going to do a little bit more conditioning. It's not because to punish you guys. It's just because, we're a little slow in the third period. And then it comes across, and then the leadership group, when they have a say, now they're bought in.
Mm-hmm.
And now the whole team follows. So it's got to be, you need that CEO, but the CEO can't be, in a closet by himself making all the decisions. It's got to be a push and pull, and you got to have, you got to have buy-in from not only the leadership, but also the guys that are the boots on the ground, the guys on the ice, the leadership, the seniors, the juniors, our talent, our really skilled guys, our draft picks are, those guys need to be bought in. So that is the most unique dynamic, and Coach Jackson and the staff did it better than I've seen. And that's something that I've really seen and really tried to carry through in my life and in the real world.
No, I mean the parallels with running a business are so
Mm-hmm.
similar, and stuff that we're trying to figure out.
Yeah.
As a team grows, and you want everyone to have input and buy-in, and then make the right decisions for the team or the company along the way. And I'm trying to figure out if I'm a team owner or a coach. I think I'm a little bit of both. Because that's a whole nother thing where, my design director is my coach now. So maybe I don't need to be telling the design director what they need to do differently. I don't know. So when Coach Jackson comes to the team, he's like, I think we need to do some more conditioning. What do you guys think? Does anyone raise their hand like, nah?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the really interesting thing is we
Yeah.
have guys, and these are the types of guys you need. The guys that are confident enough, because leadership needs to be exuberantly confident. There needs to be a clear direction, and the coaching staff had it, and it showed, and it showed. But then we had our leadership guys, the guys that would perform, that were delivering on the ice consistently, and they knew they were going to deliver on the ice consistently, and they had that confidence. And so you got to have this direction, and you got to have exuberant confidence, because the underclassmen and the rest of the team needs that confidence, because you're going into battle with these guys.
Yeah.
You want to look to your left and be like, this guy is not phased at all that we're playing, Duluth, we're playing Minnesota on their ice. It's a big game. You need the guys being like, they're not phased at all. They're like, yeah, we're winning this game. So you get those right people. And so there were times when we had those types of people. And one of my really good friends today, a guy by the name of Dylan Malmquist, who just an incredibly talented individual, he would be the guy that, in training camp, he would be the guy that would come back, and Jackson would be like, hey, we look a little slow. And Dylan would come back and say, hey, coach, we're 2 weeks into training camp. We're getting going here. We're spending a lot of time, off the ice with the team. We're bonding, and hey, we're in a good spot. And, we don't need to do 2-a-days right now. It's too much. We're, 6 practices a week or whatever. We're doing too much. And, Dylan and he would push back, and Jackson had enough respect for Dylan and our leadership group that he would be okay. He would be like, yeah. I want 6 practices a week and 4 workouts. And Dylan would be like 4 practices and 4 workouts. And they'd meet a middle ground and be like, okay, let's go from there. And then Jackson would be like, here we are, that's what it is. And he, so you needed that push and pull, and you needed guys with enough confidence to, they weren't fighting him, but they were having a conversation. Right. And ultimately, if Jackson said, hey guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to overrule this. I've been doing this for 40 years. All the guys would be like, okay, he listens to us when, he gets our input. And in this case, he's going to overrule it, and, that's okay. But, if Jackson, every time he has a meeting, he's like, guys, this is the way it is, guys are like, I'm out, Yeah. So it was that dynamic that really worked. It really worked.
Well, I think that speaks to a level of trust. Which,
mm-hmm.
Obviously to be on Notre Dame's hockey team and getting ice time, there's a level of trust in the players, and they want to win.
Yeah.
More than anything. They hate losing more than anything. So they're not going into it out of a sense of laziness, right? Like, oh, I just don't feel like doing another workout. They're really coming at it as it relates to the goals of the team, and they're not seeing it. They're like, I don't think this is really going to move the needle. It might actually hurt us. So I think that's really, really super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, how the trust and the respect. Is there like a full on cultural core values of the team that's like reinforced specifically, or is it a little bit more ambiguous? Like, is there writing on the wall? Is there's stuff? Is it Home Depot style where you're really reinforcing this stuff on a regular basis, or is it just kind of part of the aura?
Yeah, we had something, and I think that the organization actually keeps this pretty tight knit, or pretty tight, keeps it close to the chest. But we had something. We had a called the Sacred 7, rules to live by. If you will. We do this. We do this. We do this. And it was. It's one of those things that was really unique to me. And if, when I came in as a freshman, it was the thing that if the coach tried to instill this without the players' input, the players would run for the hills and be like, this is dumb. but it was the coach working with the players and guys like Dylan, who was a senior when I was a freshman, and getting their commitment and buy-in. And so when I came in, we had the Sacred Seven, and I was like, I haven't really seen this. But the players were all like, you got to memorize these. This is us. This is who we are. And you memorize these. And then in training camp, we'd have, at the end of our Friday morning workouts, which was sort of kind of a symbolic kind of end of the week. We get Friday night, we get Saturday to hang out and have fun as college students. This is, August before the season's getting started. We'd have our trainer, Tony Rolinski. We'd all sit down and he'd go, Charlie, what's Seiko number 5? And I'd have to say it in front of the whole team, word for word. And if you mess it up, we're back on the line. We're doing another 15 minutes of conditioning. And it was if the coach tried to instill that without the player buy-in, we would like veto it, and we would just like be like, no. But it was the leadership group that was like, you got to have this down. And if you don't have this down and we have to do conditioning, we are not going to be happy. So, it wasn't, and I could go through the 7. That's how instilled it was. It's, I'm 3 years removed, but it wasn't, I wasn't thinking, every day in practice, number 5, like I got to catch this pass, or, I got to, but Right. It was just this like, hey, we take this stuff seriously. We are Notre Dame hockey. We're not like every other program. And we kind of tried to put ourselves on this pedestal of, we are, not only are we going to beat you on the ice, but we are stand-up individuals, and we are stand-up people. We're in the community. We're in the classroom. We are, everything that, represent, we are these people that we all want to be. And we had this buy-in. And so it was little things like that just show. And it wasn't the fact that it was 7 things written on the wall. It was the fact that we just had those, and we could look to them, and people took them seriously. And it was that little thing that said, I am, I'm a part of this. And so I need to elevate. And if I fall, people are going to look at me and be like, dude, you're not getting it.
Yeah.
And so it's that little bit of culture and that little bit of striving. I think there's little things you can do to nudge people in that direction, the little symbolic things that be like, hey, we're doing a big thing here. If you fall behind, where everyone's bought in, and if you're not bought in, like we don't really want you here. And so everyone bought in. And so, those little things, and I don't know how much, what kind of things those are, but just those little things that get people bought in. Mm-hmm. And if you're bringing someone new into the team and they see that, not only is the CEO bought in, but, the mid-level guys and, the guys that have been there for 10 years, that they're bought in, it's like, oh, I better get bought in. And you're excited to get bought in too. You want to be a part of something like that. So that was a little interesting thing that we had this Sacred 7, called him the Seiko. But that was awesome. Just a little thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and then on the other side of that, because, you're one of 19 cousins, easily one of the top 5 funniest. And your parents are 2 of the funniest people on the planet. You can't tell me that there wasn't a laughing prank culture going on at the same time. Any pranks?
Oh, at Notre Dame?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was, look, we had, the trainer, Tony Rolinski, who was that culture. He embodied the culture. He was everything. He'd be the first guy, if you're delivering in the workout room and we finish a hard workout, he's cracking jokes, and we got this good, we're warming up for workouts. Everybody's cracking jokes and he's firing back, and it's lighthearted. It's fun because you got to be loose.
Yeah.
You got to be having fun. But if you're having fun and you're, you did, 7 reps instead of, 10, which you could have done 10, he'd be like, what are you doing? And he would no more jokes, and he'd be like, let's go. Like, but then he'd be the first guy to crack a jokes. And Tony and I are great friends still. We talk very, very frequently. You know, I was at a Notre Dame hockey wedding this past summer, or sorry, 2 summers ago. And, you know, Tony's there, you know, he was, so you got to have fun, you know.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, that's it. And yeah, that's.
I was going to try and figure out how to translate that into the office culture. Because, you know, obviously the show The Office is built on pranks, or a lot of pranks between Jim and Dwight.
The pranks are for sure. And
I think it comes down to, and I'm trying to think through this, because it comes down to a level of people smarts and line crossing. There's certain things that you just need to know that are okay to do, and certain things that aren't.
Yeah.
And you know, this isn't about me, but when I worked at Optima up in Glencoe, we worked in it was mostly financial people there. So it was just silent, and the drop ceilings were like this high. It was the fluorescent lighting. And this is a creative design community. And so it's like 5 architects in there, and then like all financial. And it was just dead silent. Like, I couldn't take it. I'd always leave and go for a walk, you know, take breaks and all that stuff. And so it wasn't really very fun for me. But then one day, Jen, our admin, decided we're going to have a potluck lunch, right? Like, this is going to be so much fun. Everyone's going to bring a different meal. Sign up for what you're going to bring. So Efren, and I knew he had a good sense of humor, he was a somewhat hairy fella. So I signed him up to bring dingleberry pie to the potluck. He thought it was funny. Jen, the admin, so mad. Canceled the potluck. I was like, I guess I went too far.
Yeah, that's a fine line. That's a fine line. That's one of those things that in my most recent spot that would probably land. But yeah, you got it. You got to.
We're in no way saying office pranks are a thing that should be done. I'm trying to, because, you know, in our world of design, build, residential remodeling, it's really freaking hard. There's surprises all the time. There's client input. There's so many moving pieces that are going on. We are not, you know, an assembly line just putting stuff together and going home. So trying to find ways to celebrate the wins and the victories.
You got to.
I think I've heard it's 9-to-1 how you remember bad experiences to good experiences. It takes 9 good things to
cancel out one
bad thing.
Yeah.
Which I want to circle to the mental game, which obviously, you know, in high level hockey is a huge part. And I think it's part of our industry as well. Kind of that, how do you man, and you were a defenseman. So you speak to the culture. You can't blame the goalie. You can't blame any single person on the team for anything, I'm assuming.
Yeah, except it was never my fault. And none of the goals were ever my fault.
Right. It damn well better not be.
I'm not blaming people, but I'm just saying it wasn't my fault.
Right. Exactly. But on a team environment, and we're starting to obviously, you know, in the youth ages, they're learning that, because you take a tough loss. People may in their heads think that, you know, a defenseman whiffed on a puck and the other team stole it and scored a goal, and now it's that defenseman's fault.
Yeah.
They're not saying that, and they're really not thinking that, or hopefully the grown-ups aren't thinking that. But the kid themselves are beating themselves up about it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's again, you know, if I could do it again, you know, I would be a different player, personality off the ice, on the ice. And what I developed a meditation practice between kind of my junior career and my ND career. And that was one of those things that junior career, all throughout my youth, you know, I'd hang the head, stick down, you know, and, you know, people, it would show up on, you know, would just weigh the team down.
Yeah.
And that was the one thing where I flipped the switch and just figured out like, okay, that happened. And then you just like next shift, everyone says it, but there was that, that Roger Federer, however you can do it, but it's a habit. There's that Roger Federer commencement address, or he spoke somewhere and he said, he gave this incredible statistic, greatest tennis player of all time. And he's like, he won like 46%, or like he lost like 46% of his points, or some staggering number where it was like the number of points he actually won versus lost was a razor thin margin, where you'd think Federer would be much more lopsided.
Mm-hmm.
And his whole message there was like, next point, next point. I'm the greatest. He didn't obviously say this, but I was the greatest. I was the one of the most winning tennis players ever, and I lost like half my points, and he's like, next point. And so however you can do that, that is a habit that is just so critical. And thankfully I've figured out a way to develop it in myself. And literally every hour I have it where I'm like, next. Or I'm like, that phone call that I had yesterday, I was off, I should have said this one thing. You just next. So that just totally lands, and it's so important. So important.
Yeah, it's a in the moment.
Hard to do though.
Yeah, it's really, and you said practice, a meditation practice, because it really takes practice to make that part of your mindset.
Yeah,
I'd say. Did you watch the new season of NHL Face Off by any chance? On Prime?
I watched the Oilers one. Who is this? Who's the most recent one?
It still follows multiple teams, but Seth Jarvis has an episode.
Okay.
And so Jarvis is like the king of imposter syndrome. He's like, I suck. I don't even know why I'm here. And what is he like? He's the Canes leading, point leader. Just had a hat the other night, and everyone's like, "What is wrong with you?" Like it's so. And golfers deal with this all the time, and I just can't even imagine, a PGA golfer trying to.
That's the baseball too. The slow sports, that's like
the head games.
If you can't move on, hockey is interesting because if I could just go out and try to hit somebody, and that was my way of like, forget about everything going on in your head, and you just be like, all right, I'm just watching the body.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hit someone and now you're engaged again, and then it just kind of so what I would say, I spent a lot of time on the bench, as and so whenever I would play or had a bad shift or anything like that, I would sit on the bench and I would just visualize the watching people's chests, watching the guy stick handling, and I would just watch his chest, and it was a way to just distract myself. And then when I got back on the ice and my legs were tired and I was, I hadn't played in 10 minutes or whatever, all I was doing was I'm not going to get beat because they're not going to get around me. And I would just play the body all over the ice. All I need to do is just play the body. I don't need to think about, making that nice play on the point. I'm not trying, I'm not trying to go out and score. I don't need to think about all those passes I need to make. All I'm thinking about is the one thing that I can really control. And that's just the guy in front of me, my guy stick handling in front of me. It's a Michigan guy. He's probably trying to toe drag. He's probably trying to, bedard me or something like that. All I'm watching is he's not getting around me. He can do whatever he wants with the puck. And that was not only a good defensive habit, but it was just a way for me to just forget about everything else. I can't control, that pass I'm going to make, that shot from the point. I can't control all of these things. And if I'm thinking about them, it's not good. It's not productive. So I don't need, all I'm thinking about is watching the body, it just kept my mind focused and kept me, it was that kind of a little bit of a next shift mentality, but also just, a little simple thing where I could be like, here's the one thing that I can control, and the rest is going to happen, and it's going to happen in the moment, and I'm going to feel it out. And it's not something that overthinking is going to help me. So,
Yeah, there's so much to learn from that. And I know it sounds, weird in the remodeling business, but and all those moving
Yeah.
pieces and the level of control is somewhat
But
impossible.
yeah. And there's,
You have to break it into pieces and parts and focus on that. You can't, if you're dealing with all the stuff, you'll be frozen.
yeah, it's, there's Dave. I mean, we could talk about this for 4 hours and we could
I know
just
we're
go on and
gonna.
on.
I want to do a Joe Rogan. We'll just go like 9-10 hours.
Yeah.
No, I know we're kind of timing. Go ahead. What were you saying?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm good.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm curious. Then the transition into a day job.
Yeah.
What's up with that? How'd that go?
Yeah, that was my first. Yeah. I was excited to carry over some of my habits into the real world. And I've learned so much about how to actually perform. It's not about, you know, being this perfect robotic person that's, responding to email, right away and always on top of things. You got to understand what you're good at, what are you not good at. So when I entered the workforce, I took this way too serious of an attitude and spirit, and it showed up. I took everything way too seriously, and it slowed me down. Yeah, I was working hard, but it was slowing me down. My output was not, because it was not what it was supposed. Was not the best it could be, because I was grinding so hard. I wasn't having fun. I wasn't smiling. Everything was like, I can't talk right now. I got to do this. The client needs this. And so that was the one thing where I had to just, as a whole life thing, I had to just step back and be like, this is not the best way for me to perform. You need good sleep. You got to be feeling good. The other thing that I've just you got to have a good word. And this is one thing we can do about culture. You got to invest in your environment. If you're in your employees, they might not notice it, but you got to invest in your work setup. You got to have good lighting. You got to have good chairs. You got to have good space. You got to have a good eating area where people can be social and kind of get away. You got to invest in the environment that people are working in. If they don't want subconsciously to be in the office, a little bit, obviously, it's a Monday morning at 9 a.m. Everyone's dragging a little bit, but if the office is a nice environment, it just makes it a little bit easier to, why is it so easy for us to go sit on the couch and watch TV? Well, the couch is comfy,
Right.
And, we got good lighting. Why is it so easy for us to hang out in our kitchens? I was noticing this the other night. It's because we create our kitchens such a nice environment. Our bodies just want to get there and be there. And it feels good to be there, even if we're not consciously thinking about it. So that's one thing that I am really, really keen on now, is creating a really good work environment for people. And how do you get it? Draw this back to the Notre Dame. That team invested in the locker room.
Yeah,
we had some of the greatest facilities, that and you walk into that place and you're like, I'm a professional hockey player. You're like, this is the real deal. And you elevate to that. If the team is shortcutting on, food or facilities or weight room, you're like, they don't care,
Yeah, I always think about, and excuse me, I actually had this train of thought probably, I don't know, in the past year on that kind of same parallel of like, what resources do I need to be giving the team to maximize their performance?
Yeah.
It's under my control as an owner.
Yeah.
That I haven't figured that all out yet. If you've been to LivCo's offices, we need a remodel, and we're getting there.
Yeah,
if anyone from the team is watching, we're getting there. But
it's a hard thing to do, and it's much more about, I think you're such, everything in your life is designed. I walk your house, your car, everything. The tree house that we built 15 years ago in my backyard. Everything is
that designed. One was not designed.
No, I know, but I know we didn't quite.
That was some sheets of plywood.
We didn't quite finish it, but if you are thinking about improving your environment, you can't flip a switch and get a new office. People are practical, they're reasonable. Hey guys, we can't completely revamp this office, but hey, here, those little things you can do. We're gonna get a new coffee maker. One thing that's bothered me in the past, the coffee maker. Everybody drinks coffee. Make it good coffee. Make it a really good coffee machine.
So when Russ and I started LivCo, like our one mission as business owners was to have a decent printer, because we work for a small business.
Those
shittiest printers.
Those little things.
That would never print.
In my references to finance people, because coffee is the heart and soul of the finance industry, and so if you don't have a good coffee, so whatever it is in your world, and finance versus design, it's a different. People prioritize different things.
Yeah, snacks, like whatever is just easy for us to do that we can control to help maximize everyone's performance.
Yeah.
And enjoyment's part of that, no question. People want standing desks, please, by all means.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever tools you guys need, that helps you, is there for sure. And the other parallel, because we both appreciate good movies, is a Major League. Yeah. Right. When they just kept taking away all their perks and they put them in like the propeller plane, and then they still won, and so they gave them the old Greyhound bus.
Yeah, and the Moneyball scene where Billy Beane, a new leader who's trying to instill a culture, and he needs buy-in from the veterans in the league. David Justice in that movie, he needs buy-in from the leaders. The young guys aren't going to buy in if the leader is on his own page.
Yeah.
And David Justice has a subtle little thing about, hey, why are we paying for our own Gatorades in the locker room? And it's a kind of nonchalant thing, but Billy Beane eventually realizes, like, hey, I gotta, it's a push and pull game. I gotta negotiate. That's Jeff Jackson and Dylan Malmquist being like, hey, let's meet in the middle on this. If you want us to do an extra workout, you gotta give us, the Gatorade's got to be free. And so Billy Beane, in a trade that he makes with some team, I forget the exact story, but he's like, I want you to pay for our sodas. And that's the little thing where it's like, hey, David Justice, leader, veteran, and MLB player, I need you to buy in to my system. David Justice is like, why are we paying for Gatorades? And so Billy Beane, they meet in the middle, get me my Gatorades. That's a little thing where it's not this imposing CEO, my way or the highway. It's, hey, the guy just wants to win, and he's willing to go out of his way and spend a little money that maybe they didn't fully have or something like that. He's willing to make a little sacrifice to be like, guys, I get you. All I want to do is win here. I'm not trying to impose. I just want to win. Yeah. So, the little things we can do to help you win, that's a little sacrifice on the CEO's part, the GM in this case, that gets a little bit of more buy-in, I think that's a powerful thing.
What were your and so you were living in New York City, now you're back in Chicago. What did you guys have work from home opportunities? We're trying to navigate that world too.
Yeah, it's it's one of those things where you can't impose. I don't think you can impose certain things. You can't give people too much freedom. Mm-hmm. If we had too much freedom, we'll stay comfy and we won't. You got to get that inertia. You got to break that spell and just get people in. You need to be talking and in person. I can't stand Zooms. Excuse me. I wasn't quick enough on the mute there. I should have gotten a mute in for that.
No, it's good. It's
good. And one thing that bothers me is you you can only force people to do so much. You can only if you want them to come in 5 days a week, which if that's best for the team, and everyone kind of agrees that the Billy Bean and the David Justice, the Jeff Jackson and the Dylan Malmquist agree that 5 days a week is the right thing, then you got to get there. But what we're missing on this whole thing is make it so people want to come in. The finance industry is like, we got to be in. Well, make it so people want to come into the office. Don't impose. If people are fighting you really hard on coming into the office, that should say something. If they want to come in 0 days a week, that should say something. Either you have all lazy people at your company, or your office is there, or you being in the office is miserable. That should be symbolic. So you got to push and pull, you got to negotiate, you got to have, maybe a little bit of work from home. I think is healthy. I think it's okay. But if no one wants to come into the office and they're fighting you on your work from the office, on your work from home policy, hey, that's a little writing on the wall.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are the things that I'm part of the challenge in Chicago, obviously, is the commute. So I've always felt like, and so
that's a big thing. It's a big thing.
So way back in the day, because I remember when my brother, your Uncle Andy, used to work for the government, every other Friday they would have off, and they'd work the 45-hour work week. And my understanding is it came out of the gas crisis, because you had all of these employees on the road one less day every 2 weeks. Well, a half day wouldn't do any good there. And so I always felt like there was something to how much time and energy you get back not in having to deal with that. Then also in the design world, we have a lot of women that work for us, and it just takes them longer to get ready in the morning because they have to do all of that stuff. I mean, this is it. I don't even shave. They got to blow dry. Like, it's a whole. So I think that the overall time savings for people's lives is beneficial. And just trying to balance that with the team environment is the challenge. Because in the design world, I think there's two sides of it. I think there's a really important team component of it, but there's also a really important individual, focused, unbothered training aspect to it, where they're just working your head down. You're loving it because you're designing. You just don't know what it is yet, and you just need 6 hours with no one talking to you and nothing going on. So people put their headphones on anyway. And then you say, well, the construction team can't work from home. Fair enough, but the construction team is shooting out the job sites all over the place. They're actually together in the office less, working as a team than any other group. So there's certain industries where you're not working from home, but you're not in the office all collectively working together for 80% of the week anyway. So it's been a really interesting thing to learn from. And we just want to have great people and have them enjoy what they do and enjoy their lives at the same time. And whatever functions make that work, we're trying to figure that out, because it does become a cultural disruptor, no question.
For sure. And I totally agree.
We're seeing the flip side of that. When there's days where no one's in the office, and then Luann, our admin's like, where is everybody? This is sad.
It's definitely it's totally a balance there in the commute, and there's a lot of different factors here, and I do think it's a balance. 5 days in, 5 days in seems definitely excessive. You can be wildly productive, waking up, having a really nice morning, create. And one thing that I'm big on too is, I think everyone should be doing this, is make a really nice work from home setup.
Put your drums in the background.
Make that. I mean, you got a great. It's clearly a very cozy space, and I think creating a place where you are like, I would love to go sit in my den. It's warm. I've got good lights. I've got good monitors. I've got a good chair. I've got my coffee right there. I've got my notebooks. I got all this organization. And then it is in the design world. I can't imagine, so much productivity is, you in a room by yourself with no distractions.
Right.
And so
Which you're 100% right. You need that dedicated space, because if Mega's taken over my office and my computer's not set up and I have to go set it up, like my mind, like my desk isn't right. It takes me a while to shift back into it, to plug everything back in. And so when you just have that desk that you go to, that is a dedicated office, is kind of nice. And then in our last house, because we rented for a while, and this is going into the design world a little bit, it was a Pulte home built probably 5 years ago. And so it's one big open plan that has an office space, but it's part of the main floor plan and it's all open to it. It's awful.
Yeah.
It was a really nice workspace, but why do I want to be in my kitchen with my kids playing video games and always looking at this thing? So having a space that's off to the side is that's dedicated, I think, is really important. We struggle because Meg works from home too, so she used our bedroom and had a nice little setup, but it's not the same as really having a desk and open up a laptop on the kitchen island for a work day. Just isn't the same.
Make it easy for yourself to do those hard things. Half the battle in finance, half the battle for getting stuff done is just, when you got to grind, it's late at night, is just getting up from your couch or your kitchen or coming home to your office and just sitting down. Make all of those little things as easy as possible. Make it comfortable for your body and your mind to sit down and get there, and get half the battle done is just sitting down and opening up that Excel spreadsheet. Make that really easy, and so in the office, at home, make all of those things easy. And just the parallels here, Notre Dame, we made the process of getting up early in the morning. Our locker room was very comfortable. You could change from your clothes into your workout clothes in a very comfortable environment. The showers, in through the door, it was a seamless thing. And then you walk right into the weight room, and it's a great weight room. We kept it spotless, and it just made the working out, getting half the battle of working out is getting to the gym.
Right.
So let's take that and let's make getting to the gym as easy as possible, and watch how much more often you work out,
Yeah.
So let's take that and apply that to the rest of our lives. Why not?
Love it, man. Dude, this has been so cool. We're way over 30 minutes, but we could talk for forever. And I don't know when we're going to see you next, but I'm sure I'm back and forth to Chicago pretty often, so we'll have to get together now that you're back up there. But any final thoughts, or what you're up to these days, or anything else you want to add before we say bye?
No, there is so much that we could unpack on this whole thing, and I'm so excited because I've regained my enthusiasm for hockey. I took a couple of years off. I just bought the NHL center ice. I've got a couple of Notre Dame friends that are, playing consistent minutes on a few teams. And so I love watching them. I'm all about it. It's really fun. And I'm excited to keep tracking your boys. Keep sending me all the videos. I like the big hit videos.
I know. I'm sorry you weren't back in Chicago yet when we were there for World Invite.
Yeah, I missed that.
We saw Tommy. That was pretty cool.
But it's such a fun thing.
Are you playing men's league?
That is something. So I still live in New York. I'm just temporarily here.
Oh, okay.
I just basically stuck around a little longer after Thanksgiving. But I've played a couple times since I've graduated, and I'm trending towards one. It's hard to do in New York. If I were in Chicago full time, I think I'd be out there more consistently.
Yeah.
But I'm getting there because I'm missing it, and I'm loving watching hockey, and I'm loving all of the parallels between hockey and people and managing people, and how to get the best out of people. How do you get the best out of your players? Because it's so relevant to me. How do I get the best out of myself? but two, how do you get the best out of the people around you too? It's it's really cool. So
ultimate
topic.
Team sport.
Yes.
I'll make that argument all day long. There's lots of team sports where it's the best one.
It is.
Charlie, thanks again, man. And happy holidays. We'll talk to you soon.
Likewise. Chat
All
soon,
right.
Dave. This
See
was a
you,
lot of
man.
fun. See ya.